Cairo is probably more important to ancient history than we have yet to discover. The city is constructed on ancient ruins, of which are mostly unknown because the masonry was used to construct the city. The fabled lost fourth pyramid was torn down for the purposes of building Cairo, and the sheer number of times that its residents have come across tombs and lost treasures is enough to at least suggest that Cairo is another city built upon the ruins of the gods. Think about it, the Giza Plateau is right there, then there is Cairo, but the city is modern and is not known to always have been there. So what was there? What is there? More importantly, is Cairo purpose-built on top of something of historical importance? Is the city a giant canopy? Wait, till you hear this. To begin to understand, we must first try to understand a little bit about the history of Cairo. The Old Kingdom of Egypt is also known as the Age of the Pyramids, or Age of the Pyramid Builders. It is a time that is mostly forgotten and surviving only in the form of the megastructures we see today. The historical records of this period are scarce, and so-called historians regard the history of the area as literally written in stone, and largely architectural in that it is through the monuments and their inscriptions that scholars have been able to construct a history out of their short-sighted biased educational process, which, as we know, is flawed to the point of a fruit that has rotted. The pyramids themselves relay scant information on their builders, but the mortuary temples built nearby and the later stela which accompanied them provided kings' names and other important information from the dynastic period. It is therefore through the dynastic period of Egypt that we have to reinterpret the earlier kingdom, just as the dynastic Egyptians themselves had to interpret the kingdom they inherited or found, as it were. Inscriptions in stone found elsewhere from the time record various events and the dates of which they occurred. Finally, the tomb of the last king of the 5th dynasty, Unas, provides the first pyramid text which shed light on the religious beliefs of the time. Religious beliefs are thought to have emerged based on actual events of the before time. This is a time that the gods walked among us and is what we may refer to as myth, but there are the oral stories that were inscribed during the re-emergence of Egypt. So what was Cairo? It wasn't a barren wasteland, it was something, right? It may be notable to tell you that Cairo is named after planet Mars. Cairo literally means conqueror, and when it was founded, Mars was rising, the conquering star. There is also a suggestion that King Tut's wound was inflicted not from a carriage, but from crash landing at Cairo in a spaceship of sorts on his way back from a trade agreement with Mars. We know that sounds absolutely insane, guys. We don't need to be told. Swiss scientists say they can prove beyond a doubt that the lost city of Atlantis was on Mars, and its astronauts traded with ancient Egypt for thousands of years, suggesting that Egypt was an outpost of the Atlantean Empire. We will link the article below. The origins of present-day Cairo trace back to the Egyptian capital of Memphis, which is believed to have been founded in the early 4th millennium BC, near the head of the Nile Delta, south of the present city. Memphis spread to the north along the east bank of the Nile, and its location has commanded political power ever since. It was there that the Romans constructed their city called Babylon. Muslim Arabs who emerged there from the Arabian Peninsula in 641 later called the site Al-Fustat. When a dissident branch of Muslims known as the Fatimid conquered Egypt in 969, they established their headquarters in the city and called it Al-Kahari, Cairo. In the 12th century, Christian crusaders attacked Cairo, but they were defeated by a Muslim army from Syria led by Saladin, who founded the Ayyubid dynasty in the city. The Mamluk established their capital in the 13th century, and the city became renowned throughout Africa, Asia, and Europe before it declined after the mid-14th century. However, when bubonic plague struck the city, it decimated its population. The Ottomans conquered Cairo in 1517 and ruled there until 1798, when the area was captured during an expedition led by Napoleon of France. Ottoman rule was restored in 1801, but by the middle of the 19th century, Egypt's foreign debt and the weakness of the Ottoman Empire invited greater European influence in Cairo. The viceroy Ismail Pasha, who ruled from 1863 to 1879, built many European-style structures in the city and used the occasion of the opening of the Suez Canal northeast of Cairo in 1869 to showcase the city for the European powers. However, much of the development that took place during this period was funded by foreign loans, which led to an increase in the national debt and left Cairo vulnerable to control by Great Britain. The British effectively ruled Egypt from Cairo from the late 19th century through the period after World War I, when the foreign presence in Cairo began to diminish. Though the pyramids at Giza, Saqqara, and Dashur are located just outside of Cairo, these vast monuments were not temples of modern Cairo. They are the ruins of a much more ancient and advanced culture that had vanished before the modern era began around 5,000 years ago. They were already there. Modern Cairo today, you may be surprised to learn, is the center of a multi-billion-pound smuggling operation. The antiques and artifacts that are being smuggled are coming from Cairo itself. Every few days or so, there are more ancient artifacts found underneath the modern city. This is why we suggest that it is built upon the ruins of a much older city that has vanished into the abyss. It's all hushed up, but every now and again, we see signs of this black trade. When authorities seized a diplomatic pouch at the port in Naples, they weren't expecting to unearth a plot more suited to an Indiana Jones movie. The pouch, which was discovered in March last year, hid an eclectic assortment of Egyptian antiques, colorful pharaonic mummy mask, nearly 200 small artifacts, and more than 20,000 coins. The loot had been stolen from Egypt, and it was clear that powerful and connected individuals were involved. Smuggling of antiques is a trade nearly as old as the artifacts themselves. But for Egypt, the trade has escalated since the Arab Spring, and social media made it easier to access hidden treasures. The crisis is so bad it can be seen from space. Satellite imagery of archaeology sites before and after they were looted show massive craters in the ground where artifacts have been stolen. And there is big money involved. The US-based Antiquities Coalition has established that since 2015, $30 billion US worth of Egyptian antiquities has been illegally smuggled abroad. Even with all the constant looting and smuggling, the vast amount of artifacts under Cairo and the surrounding area is still only 10% excavated. For thousands of years, we have tore and prodded these things, yet there is still 90% hidden under the sand. What does that tell you? So that's it for now, guys. We may do a part 2 to this. If you like what you have heard so far, let us know below where we can discuss this further. As always, thank you for watching.